welcome back to Beauty in the Bible. We're here in my bedroom because today's message is very uncomfortable for me to talk about. And I was coming up with a lot of excuses to avoid it. And I just decided to make myself as comfortable as possible in my room. Welcome to my room. And get this message done. Okay? So, today is going to be my personal testimony. I really didn't think I would share it on this channel. When I first made it, I was like, should I do a testimony episode? I was like, maybe later down the road, but right now it's not about me, and I didn't want to spend time. I didn't want to talk about myself, because I was like, it's not about me, it's about God's message, so we don't need to tell them my business. But it turns out we do, because God has been putting it on my heart to share my testimony and talk about how I came to find Him and how my walk has been so far. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So if you don't know me, I have been Catholic since I was a little baby, and for someone who thinks of that may think like it's been easy because I've known about Jesus my whole life, but it has been hard, and it's even harder when you know better. I feel like I've talked about this in previous videos, but in my previous videos I've alluded to things that have happened in my life without going into full detail because I was talking about a different topic, and I just feel like if I get it all out there and I explain where I'm coming from, then a lot of the future episodes will make a lot more sense when I talk. I never want it to seem like I'm speaking on a topic in a judgmental way. Anything that I speak on, I have worked through myself or am working through. So I'm never speaking as a way of pointing the finger. So today I'm going to talk about me and how I got here. I'm 22 years old and it's been a journey already. I know people hear me say 22 and they're like, oh my gosh, you're so young, you have so much to learn, which is true, 100%. But I'm here to talk about how it's been so far. So I have my Bible open to the book of John because in it he talks about being of the world, specifically John chapter 1. He's talking about being of the world and how God is also in the world, but sometimes the world doesn't know him. So when I'm stumbling and I don't want to talk about certain things, I'm just going to remember I am not a child of the world, I am a child of God. And that's something that I remind myself a lot when I'm faced with a decision that is hard to make. Usually I want to make the decision going towards the world, and then I tell myself, you're not a child of the world, you're a child of God, placed in the world to help other people and yourself make it to heaven. So that's what I gotta stay true to. So here we go. So, I've always had my faith, and even in high school, I really got deeper into it. I went to my first retreat. My mom made me go when I was 15 years old, and I really, really, really didn't want to go. I felt like I was a pretty good kid. I was like, why is she doing this to me? I felt like I was being taken to prison. It was a 3-night, 4-day retreat with no phone, and you couldn't talk to anybody else. You couldn't even talk to your parents for.
Hi, this is Editing Valerie here. I just wanted to come in and say the way I worded that, it sounded like we had to be silent for the whole time, the whole retreat. I meant you couldn't talk to anyone outside of the retreat. So yeah, I couldn't call my parents. That's what I meant by that. I did not mean that we couldn't talk to anyone. We talked a lot. We talked a lot about our feelings and stuff with the people in the retreat, not people outside of the retreat. That's what I meant by that. Okay, bye.
4 days, 3 nights. And you had to sleep at the church. This wasn't a hotel. This was cots in a room one next to the other. And I just had never done anything like this before. It's totally normal. But at the time I was just okay, looking around the room, okay, where am I gonna plug in my phone? Where am I gonna have my space to get ready in the morning? Where is all that? So I was just why is she doing this to me? I don't even get in trouble. I don't even disobey her. I'm a pretty good kid for the most part. But thank goodness for my mom. For real, I'm so glad that she dealt with my little mean self when I was in high school and forced me to go. Because once I was there, I encountered God for the first time. So it was my personal encounter, even though I had been to church. This was me removed from everything, and it was a beautiful experience, that retreat. So after that, I really got deep into it, and for the rest of my teen years, I would do summer retreats. I would always do at least one or two, and then throughout the year, I would do youth group and all that, confirmation class, and I actually liked it. Like, I didn't feel forced anymore, but I did feel weird. So weird for being a church kid, and I didn't like to really talk about it outside of that. So at school, I would wear my little necklace or my little bracelet, but I really didn't like to feel weird and feel like liking church. I felt like liking church was weird. So I kind of just saved it. Like, I had my church life and then I had my school life. And so whenever I was 16, like the day I turned 16, I wanted to start working as soon as possible. Like, the idea of making my own money and working was just like everything to me. Like, that's what I wanted. So I went and got a job at Dairy Queen. Like, literally, I got the application when I was like 15, almost 16, and then as soon as I turned 16, boom, sent it in, called, and was like, hey, have you read my application yet? Like, I want a job here. And eventually I did get hired like a week or 2 weeks later, but that was my first job. And I loved working, so sometimes I would take away from my youth group life, but I would still come like as much as I possibly could. But once I was making money, and I would like skip school to cover shifts at work if I had to, like if they needed somebody on a weekday for a day shift, I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna go do that. Like, I would literally ditch school to go to work. So still, like, I wasn't a bad kid. I wasn't getting into like bad things. Like, I wasn't drinking, I wasn't doing drugs, but I just loved like making money. Like, that made me so much happier than school. Honestly, like happier than church too. Like, it was just, I just loved like making my own money. And I don't even know, like, when I was at that age, I was like getting my nails done or something, or buying clothes, but I didn't need money like for that much. Like, my parents didn't even make me help with bills. They just kind of like let me like handle my little extra things, like if I wanted to go buy clothes and stuff like that. Like, I don't know why I felt the need to just like make so much money, but I did. And I kind of didn't stop after that. Like, even once I got out of high school, anytime I could, like, I wanted to work 2 jobs, and I wanted to just like, I wanted to work 7 days a week. Like, I couldn't handle having a day off. Like, I didn't feel productive. I didn't feel important unless I was producing like money in some sort of way, which is so weird. So even when I was in esthetician school, like, I'm in school, you think that would be enough, but I still had 2 jobs, Great Clips and Sally Beauty Supply. So I was still working there because I just wanted to work every single day, and I just thrived off that. Like, it didn't even, like, it did drain me, obviously, because your body's not made to do that, but it wasn't, I just had the energy. Like, I just like, money drove me. Money was what I wanted. So I would start working on Sundays, and, well, I always worked on Sundays, but I at least had time to go to church before, and this time, like, it just started to take over. Like, I just kind of stopped going to church, and then, my least favorite word in the world, COVID came, so also the church is closed. So at that point, the church was closed, and I was like, okay, obviously, like, I can replace this with work. So I still went to work, and I just forgot. I kind of like fell out of the habit. At this time, I moved out of my parents' house, and yeah, so I was just like all about working. I also had a boyfriend at the time, so we moved out together, and that was also not a super healthy relationship. I think both of us were very young and learning things as we went along, and we were both like learning off each other. So yeah, so that was also not a super healthy relationship. We were living together at the time and living in sin, not playing Uno, you know what I mean? Like, we were living together and not being celibate, so that was also like a big, I knew, like, in my heart, like, I was Catholic all my life. Like, I knew I wasn't supposed to be doing that, but I was just like, I don't know, like, how to navigate a relationship without the intimacy part. I was young, so I genuinely was never taught that in church. I feel like we kind of just like steered clear, like, don't do it. Moving on. Let's talk about saints. Like, it was just like that. So I didn't really know like how to navigate a healthy relationship and still have connection with your partner without having that like bodily connection. So that's how that went, and we lived together, and it was just very hard, and so going through that, and I was working a lot. So as soon as I was done with esthetician school, I left Great Clips because I had once I got my license, and I went to go work in Scottsdale at a lash salon. And then while working there, I was building my skills, and they taught me a lot about doing lashes. And then I opened my business in Casa Grande a couple months later. So then I'm doing lashes in Casa Grande and Scottsdale, and 7 days a week, of course. So I was feeling like I was getting the gratification of the world. I was being told, like, you're such a hard worker, you should be so proud of yourself, you're so young. Hearing these things all the time, it really boosted me up, especially because I feel like whenever I was younger, I wasn't bullied. Everyone was nice to me. Everyone liked me when I was younger, for sure. Like, no complaints in that area. But I just feel like I was kind of like forgotten about. Like, maybe, and I think it is because I was working so much, and then I had a boyfriend. So any spare time I had was gonna be with my boyfriend or my family. So I just feel like I was nobody's like best friend. So once I started like working, and it started like I actually started becoming successful in my business and getting really busy, and people from school would like come see me for lashes and post about me. It was just like, oh my gosh, like people care about me now. So it was kind of just reinforcing this idea that my worth came from what I was able to produce. So as a business owner, I was just trying to make as much money as possible. I was treating myself like a robot. So I would take like 10 clients a day. I would start my day driving out to Scottsdale, doing my clients, coming back to Casa Grande, doing my clients till like 10 at night. So it was like very, very long days. And I was just like, I know I was so tired, but also like excited and thriving off this like busyness. And I had no time for my family. I was going to work to do lashes on Christmas Day, Thanksgiving Day, literally no days off. Like, and people would praise me for it. They'd be like, dang, like she's a grinder. No, okay, that's not healthy, and I know this now. But at the time, I was so hard on myself too. So like, I would expect myself to be at work an hour early, getting the room ready, never canceling on clients. Like, absolutely not. That was not acceptable. I felt like if someone was taking a chance on me, like actually giving me the time of day to actually do their lashes, the last thing I would ever do would be to like get sick. That was just not an option. Like, I didn't get sick. I don't even understand how. Like, I didn't get COVID until February 2022. So this was like deep into the pandemic. I made it 2020 and 2021 not getting sick and just never taking a sick day. Like, I think one time I had to call off from my job in Scottsdale, and the only reason I could do that is because there were other artists there to take my clients, so I wasn't like letting them down. So I was really sick one day, and I took one sick day, and it felt so good. Like, I was like, wow, like I'm on top of the world. I have a whole day to myself. Like, that's the only time I could remember. Yeah, like one day I had to call out, and it was the salon where I at least had other artists who could take care of my clients that day. So that was the only day I got. But yeah, it was just like crazy, and it was all like, it was for money and reputation. So I feel like those two things were my idols at the time. I feel like I really wanted to make a lot of money, and for me, like, money was like safety. So this is how I picture it in my head. I wanted to like stack my money up and build like a wall around me, like a fortress. Like, nobody can hurt me, nothing can go bad if I have this money. Because if anything goes wrong, if my business slows down, if we have to close again from the pandemic, if the salons can't be open, or whatever, if anything happens, I will have this money to take care of me. And that's all I wanted. And that's so sad to say now, because I knew God, like I was Catholic, but I had no faith in God. Like, all my plans had to do with me. So yeah, I don't know if any other business owners can relate to that feeling, that like anxiety. Maybe it's because my job isn't like an hourly pay, like you show up, you get paid. It's like you have to work for your money, and you can make good money, but you need to put the work in. And I think I just didn't have any faith that God would bring me clients. I felt like I needed to grind and hustle and always be putting myself out there, and like always be going above and beyond to keep my clients, or they would go find someone else. So I was being successful in my business, and there was like no complaints. I was like, perfect, it's working, like I'm busy, and my clients are happy, and they're all posting me, and like everyone's like, oh my gosh, like Valerie's really doing it out here. Like, I would get told by people who did know me from high school, like, wow, like you're really doing it. And I was just like, why would I not? But whatever, anyways. So I was getting the praise, and how I see that now is, yes, people can give me praise and give me props, and I appreciate that. Like, I think in my head, I do the same for people. Like, I'll acknowledge when I see their hard work and all that, but I feel like you're getting your reward here on earth when what I want now is my reward in heaven. So now I don't crave that gratification, and I don't crave the like attention and the congratulations and the pats on the back, because I know that whatever I do here on earth, I'm only worried about my reward in heaven. So yeah, I still have people tell me like, you should be proud of yourself, you're young, but it doesn't go to my head as much as it used to. So I used to feel like unless someone was telling me those things, I was doing a bad job. I didn't see my worth in the way God saw me. So that's something I worked on a lot over the last year, maybe year and a half. I started getting deeper. I started saying like, okay, you know your Catholic faith, you know your prayers, you know your saints. Great. Now, let's get into like your heart. Like, how is your relationship with Jesus? So I started getting into the Bible. I started getting into podcasts and listening to sermons, and also taking notes in church. So I know that's kind of normal in the Christian faith to bring a little notebook to church and take notes on the sermon, which is an idea that I got from listening to Christian sermons and pastors. He would talk about, get out your notes and write this down. So I was like, oh my gosh, you can take notes in church. In the Catholic Church, I've never seen that before, except for I do it now. But I had never seen someone take out their notes. And I kind of was worried about it being a distraction, because I didn't want people to be like, they're supposed to be paying attention to the priest talking, and they're looking at me like, why is she writing? Is she being disrespectful? Is she like doodling while the priest is talking? Like, why does she have a notebook out? So I was like, I don't want to be a distraction, but I really want to take notes during church. So what I started to do was sitting all the way in the back. So the only way you could see me writing notes is if you were like fully turned around looking at me, but nobody could just be like distracted by my note taking. So that's what I started to do, and now I'm used to it, and it's not that big of a deal. So I just sit wherever now. But that's how I started getting myself used to it, and I just started making these little subtle changes in my life that would that were deepening my connection and my actual relationship with God in my heart, not just my knowledge and my like studying of the faith. So that helped a lot, but I was still, up until like maybe like January this year, I was still battling with like the overworking myself, and it got a lot better. I feel like before, maybe like October last year, 2022, is when I started to like really pull back. So that's what I started to do. But I really, at this time, I don't know where I ended in the timeline. I kind of just started talking. I think we're in the timeline of like, so I first opened my business, started getting attention for it. Cool. And I really wanted a salon. So I started going to these conventions, and I started to like get deeper into my next step in my business. Like, yes, I have the business now, and I left my Scottsdale salon because I just had enough demand in Casa Grande that I was able to do that, and I didn't have to drive an hour anymore for half the week to make my money. So that was super cool. But so I had left my Scottsdale salon. I was focused on my business only now, and I was just like, okay, what's the next step? So I went to LashCon in November 2021, and that was my first lash event. And there I was just like, oh my gosh, like the possibilities are endless. I was hearing from all the speakers that were like these very well-known, very like successful people in our business. They had salon locations, they had product lines, they were coaches, like they were there, they were doing what I wanted to do. So I was like, I want a salon, like that was my next focus. And I had a lot of money saved up, and I was like, I'm gonna do it with no loans. And I wanted employees at the time, so I hired a business coach, and we worked together for a year, 2 calls a month, always like Zoom calls talking about, it was nice because it was one-on-one. It was someone talking to me about my business rather than like a general like broad spectrum class or seminar about business. This was someone like getting in my business, looking at my numbers, looking at my productivity and my profitability and stuff, and really getting down to like, what can I improve on? Where do I need to be in order to make this salon thing work? Talking money with me. I had noticed no one ever wanted to talk numbers with me. So she was talking numbers with me. She was talking like real life money, and I didn't have to feel shy about like how much money I was making. I always felt shy about it because I didn't want to get like hate, like as if I didn't deserve it, right? So I was so young, and people would always comment on my age, and I was was making a good amount of money, but I also was just putting it away. Like I was living, okay, so I lived away from my parents for a year. I mentioned that, but I came back to my parents and I was just saving all my money, stacking it up, and so yeah, I had a good amount saved. I wasn't flexing it. I was not getting like designer things, and I wasn't enjoying my money that I worked hard for. It was all just going put away, which is good because it helped me. But I was just always living in this scarcity mindset. Like it's never enough. That's the thing. No matter how much money I was making, like if you saw what I was making, you would be like, whoa, this is a lot of money for a 20, 21-year-old. Like I'll be honest, I've never like said this out loud except to my parents, but like when I was 21 years old, like my business was making 6 figures. Like it was there, but I was killing myself in the process. So now I don't make 6 figures. That's okay. I don't want to. Because even when I was making 6 figures, I was still feeling like I need more. I was like, how do I invest this money? It was like I had it and I was like, what do I do with it? What do I do with it? Like, I didn't know what to do. Because I didn't have faith in God that I would get it. Like, I didn't know when I would stop getting it, if that makes sense. So I didn't have my faith in God. I didn't have a relationship with God in that aspect. So I just felt like, oh my gosh, like I need to save this and like I can't waste it. And what if like our house burns down or something? Like I need to have money to back me up. I just needed to have money. And so yeah, so that was put away and I had the means, so I had enough money to supply this. I had a very good coach who I was working with, so we had proof that this business would be profitable, and I was able to show that to people when we were talking about like me renting from them. I wasn't needing any like other investors. I was able to do it all on my own, and quite frankly, like there was no reason why this shouldn't have worked. That's how me and my coach were working so hard, and she owns a salon, and she had a lot of coaching clients at the time. So she's seen it. She's seen people start with less, start with more, whatever, and she knew like, okay, this is gonna work. Except it wasn't. So I would go and I'd look at these rental places, and we'd have a good meeting, and they'd be like, okay, like we'll be in touch. And every time it wouldn't work. Like every rental property in town, and I mean everyone, like people always, whenever I was in the process of looking, if I was talking to my clients about it, they'd always be like, well, have you checked this one? Yes. Have you checked this one? Yes. What about this one on this street? Yes. Like I looked into every commercial property that made sense. Of course I wasn't going to get like a 3,000 square foot place to start off, but anything that was around like 800 to 1,500 square feet that was open in my town, I tried. Okay. And every time it just wasn't working out. Looking back, I think it was also my age for sure. Like usually it would fall through just because they would end up renting to someone else, and I understand. Like at the time I was frustrated and I was like, this isn't fair. Doing everything right, I'm way more prepared than most people were when meeting with these people, and that's what I was being told. Like the property managers would be like, oh wow, like you actually brought a lot of stuff. So I was just so frustrated. I was like, what the heck? Like I'm doing everything, but I feel like it was my age. Like if I look at it from their perspective, a business owner or a like property management perspective, if you have a 35-year-old asking about this rental property and they have a lot more experience versus a 20 or 21-year-old, I don't blame them. I feel like, yeah, it makes sense why they went with like someone older, someone just that seemed more experienced. But so yeah, I felt like it was my age. I mean, yeah. So I was just so frustrated. I was like, this is not fair. And I felt like, God, like, what is going wrong? I worked so hard, and I felt like working hard was what you were supposed to be doing. So I was like, I worked so hard, and this is not working out, and it's not fair. What's going on? And so I just let it go because I didn't have a choice. So nobody would rent to me. So I genuinely did not have a choice. There was nothing else I could do. So I was just like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done with fighting. And I started to get deeper into my faith, like I had mentioned. So now I fast forwarded. Now we're back on track. So I mentioned now this is the point where I'm getting more deep into my faith, and I'm doing my podcast and my like listening to different things. Besides, I was like breaking out of the Catholic faith only because like I felt like there was so much more out there that wasn't confined within my Catholic religion, but there was also so much like Christian content out there. So I was getting really into that. I was listening to like online testimonies and other people, like people that were normal like me, talking about their walk with Christ. And I was like, okay, so this is something I could do. So I took that more seriously, and the owning a salon thing it was just not in my brain at the time. I was like, okay, not now, like maybe in 5 years, because I was like, okay, it's probably the age thing, like I'm probably just not there yet. So I just go and I'm still renting and I'm just pouring into my clients and just genuinely looking for ways that I could serve my clients and also like make better connections or better relationships. I was also like in therapy talking about like how I should connect more with people and not like just stick to myself and like work all the time. So I was working on that, and then at the time I was at my previous salon before I opened mine, and the girls were there were just so open to me and such like good genuine friends to me. So I was really happy there, and that was really cool. But I had found myself like having this little like falling out, this little drama that I had never experienced before. So like I mentioned, I never had like a super close best friend, but I also never had drama really. So that was cool. Like, so for the first time I had like this actual drama, and it was like really a really dark time for me. I feel like it sounds dramatic because everybody has like friendship fallouts and stuff like that, but I hadn't had that before. I never like fought with people. I never had arguments. Like, I was literally just me, just floating around, just grind. Like, all I wanted to do was work. So I wasn't arguing with anybody. And I had my boyfriend, still have my boyfriend. Forgot to mention him, but he's still there. He's still just like rooting for me, and we're just trying to make our relationship work. And with the time that I did have and stuff, try to find quality time. But I had this experience, and I just felt I was just at my lowest. I thought I considered myself a bad person. I considered myself a bad Christian. Like, it was gossip. It was stuff. It was kind of like Mean Girl stuff, and I was part of it. So I was like, oh my gosh, like I am a gossiper. I'm a mean girl, and I just was like I felt very condemned and very or convicted, whichever word fits better with there. But I was just like, how do I call myself Christian? I also got called out by someone who was like, I had mentioned that I really wanted a salon, but I hadn't told her like how much it meant to me and the gravity of what was going on in my head about it. So I had said like, yeah, someday I want a salon. And so in this like these trials, this like drama, one of the things she had said was like, how can you want a salon and want to help people and train people if this is how you talk about them? I was like talking bad about someone else who did lashes, and I was like, for real, like I was like, no, literally, like how could I do that? Like, I really felt like a mean girl, and I was just like, I took it very to heart. I took it very seriously. And again, I feel like I am sounding dramatic, but like this is how it was for me. So in my head, I would cry so much. I was just feeling like such a bad person. And even when I would tell people what was going on. I would talk to them. They'd be like, Valerie, that is literally not a big deal. You're a good person. I'd be like, you know, I would agree just to end the conversation. But in my head, I was like, I'm not a good person. So it was just like, it was just ugly. It was a very ugly time in my brain. And this was like, we're talking like July and August 2022. These were very bad months for me. So a while before that, I had approached the priest at my church, Father Peter, saying we should have a young adult group. As I was getting deeper in my faith, I was just finding that yes, some of it was important to do alone and do your own study and your own like quiet, talking to God, journaling, stuff like that. I was doing those things, but I was looking for more, and I was like, yes, like there's Sunday Mass, but in our church, we don't really talk to each other. We kind of just like, it's about God, it's worship. So it's about God, it's not about socializing. But I did want a social circle that was God, like believed in God like me, because I did have the salon, and those ladies were so good to me. But I just wanted a place where we could just like be on the same page about God and following Him and stuff. So so now it's August 2022. I'm in a very dark place, having a very bad time, honestly. And I'm just like, I don't know what to do next. Like, I felt like a bad person. So the priest reaches out to me, and he's like, hey, like, it's gonna be hard, but I think I have something that'll work for our young adult group. Like, we needed to find a time that would work for everybody. We needed to find at least a couple members that were like willing to start really strong. That way we can start building and stuff like that. So, but I was so happy when he reached out to me. I was like, oh my gosh, like, yes, we need this. So got that going. We started having meetings August and September about the startup of it, and then by October we had it going. So that was like a big part in my faith, honestly. I mean, they might not know that, but having my young adult group to talk to was so huge, and it made me feel like I did have people, especially after this situation where I felt like such a horrible person. And then just being able to like have this group of people who didn't care about what I did for a living, and I didn't need to talk about lashes with them. Like, and I don't need to talk about work. Like, we could literally just be like friends. Like, it had nothing to do with networking or anything like that. So yeah, I had that, and things were going good. And then at the same time, young adult groups was starting up. This is like late 2022. And then I get reached out to by a guy who had already told me no on a commercial space before. This one was actually like my most heartbreaking no that I had gotten, because I was so close. He literally emailed me a lease and was like, okay, let's get it going, way back when I first started. And then he was like, actually, no, like, I'm gonna go with someone else. So I was so heartbroken, because I was like, oh, I had the lease, and it still got taken away from me. But I got over it, right? So I'm not even thinking about a salon anymore. I'm just hanging out, like, vibing, being Valerie. And I get reached out to, and he's like, hey, I remember us talking before earlier this year, and I have a space available now that I think would suit you. Actually, he had 2 spaces available that I could go see. And I was like, no. I was like, no, because I was actually, like, getting away from that. I consider it like a monster. Like, okay, I know that's weird to say, but I was, like, so addicted to this idea of being a salon owner. I was like a little monster. And I was obsessed with it. Even my boyfriend, I told him, I was like, oh my gosh, like, we were on vacation at the time, and I was like, I got messaged by this guy, and he was like, oh my gosh, like, he just knew what we were about to get into. He was like, oh no. But encouraging, but also, like, he knew what it did to me the last time I tried it. So, I messaged him back, and I was scared at first, so I was like, ugh. I was kind of like Moses in the burning bush when he's walking, and the burning bush, which was actually like a blessing from God, like a message from God. He was so scared. He was like, oh my gosh, what is this? Because it's so weird. For me, that was that guy messaging me, his name's Roy, and he's my landlord now, but Roy messaging me, that was like a burning bush. I was like, oh my gosh, no, like, I got over this, Lord, like, I can't do this, because I was actually in a good place, and this is going to put me in a very bad place, just like last time. Only this time, I had God. So I entered this whole situation starting off with prayer. So, God, should I message him back? I am nervous. I don't know. And, like, just what do you think? And then I kind of felt in my heart, like, okay, it's okay to message him back. I felt like God was telling me, like, yes, message him back. So I was like, okay, it doesn't hurt to look. It doesn't hurt to look. Okay, yes, let's set up a time to look. I brought my mom with me, and just to make sure, like, because I only had one rental house before, so I didn't know, like, what to look for in, like, these old buildings and stuff. So I brought my mom with me. She was like, actually, this is really good. Like, you know, he was giving me a good deal, and it was the perfect size I needed, and it was just like, I didn't feel like I was taken advantage of. I didn't feel like anything was, like, out of whack, like, suspicious, nothing. I was just like, okay. So I took my info, like, we of course had each other's information. I was like, okay, like, I'm open to it. I took all my information down, and I was just like, okay. I was still doing my coaching, so I told my coach, like, you know, we got something. We got a line, okay? So I just keep praying, and I was like, you know what, God? I'm gonna do this, okay? I feel good about this. I just didn't want to be, okay, I felt good about it, but I didn't want to be naive, and I didn't want to be looking at it through rose-colored glasses or overlooking red flags just because of my excitement. So I was really not even excited, because I was just, unfortunately, I wasn't excited because I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. So I was like, okay, where's the catch? Where's the, oh, never mind, I take it back, or like, oh, the building's old and something broke and now we can't open for months or something. So I was just like, okay, I'm gonna keep going with this, and if it's working, then I know this is from God. And as soon as it's not working, cutting it, done. I'm not fighting anymore. I didn't want to fight God and what his plan was for me. So I was like, as long as this is going smooth, it's for me. And the minute it's not going smooth anymore, gone. I'm out. I'm not doing it. So everything was going smooth. I mean, I got my salon licensing on time. The contractor that I had hired everything was on time. Everything was running smooth. It was also in my budget, so I didn't need any loans. I actually had a lot of money left over from it, so I mean, that was super cool too. I feel like when the Lord gives, he gives in abundance. And so I didn't even need all the money that I had saved up. I still had I didn't have to waste all my savings, so I still had a lot of savings left. And it was just like, boom, I have a salon. It was so crazy. Like, everything just kept going to plan. There was no hang-ups. It was weird. Like, but that's what told me, like, it was from God and it was meant for me. So I opened in November 2022, okay? And at the same time, a lot of cool stuff was going on. I just had started working for LashCon, which is super fun because if you remember in my story, LashCon November 2021 was when I first decided I wanted a salon. So now it's November 2022. I'm working for LashCon and I'm opening my salon and everything's going good. And then my almost 4-year relationship ended. So so that was super sad, honestly. And, you know, it was just like we were so young and we were still learning, and it was just not like a good situation for me to be in, and I couldn't fight it anymore. So that's one thing I was fighting. So although the salon thing went very smoothly, this thing, trying to make this relationship work, was a fight for me. Like I would pray to God all the time and cry and be like, please God, I don't want to let this go. Like, please, 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 please just make it work. Like, I still love this person a lot, and even though we weren't treating each other very well on both sides, we weren't being the people that we needed to be for each other, there was still so much love and so much like teenage love. Like that was my high school sweetheart and everything, like just lots of history and stuff, and we lived together. And I just couldn't accept that it was coming to an end, and I really, really did not want to. But at the end of November 2022, that relationship ends. So, you know, I have my salon, but I'm so sad. I don't even want to be at work. Like, of course, I was at work, because that's me. But, like, as soon as I had a cancellation or something, I was, like, actually happy. So I was like, okay, like, I want to go home and cry. So, that's where I was for December 2022. I was so sad, and anytime my brain was like quiet, I would just start thinking and thinking and thinking, and I would just cry. And but a lot of transformation and a lot of growth for the both of us came out of that relationship ending. And I know it was something that God wanted to happen, and I was on the right track with that. It was just so hard. Okay, but 2023 comes around, and I'm getting out of my little sadness, and of course it still hits at times, but I was getting my confidence. I was working out. I was not overworking myself. I was working out. I was like taking care of my body. I was like feeling good, feeling confident, and I started getting a lot of like male attention, and I started going out and just like getting my happiness back, and in the process like getting a lot of attention, and and I was like, for the first time ever, I didn't know that I was like pretty, like someone that you would look at out in public and like want to talk to. I didn't know that I was that person, and maybe I wasn't before because I was so like I was so just like grinding and just not, I don't know, I don't think my energy was magnetic like at the time. So now that I was kind of getting away from that like workaholic mentality, and I was just like learning more about myself, and I was still getting like growing in my faith, but it was kind of like I would call it lukewarm. I would say like, I was like, okay God, like we're cool, but I'm gonna go try out this new thing, but I'm gonna come back, but I'm gonna go try this out. So I was like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. So I liked going to the clubs, and I liked getting attention, and you know, getting like things paid for me, because I had never had that before. So like getting drinks bought for me and stuff, like that was really cool, and it felt good. And then like it felt a little too good, and I was losing myself again. I was losing my what is it called, my celibacy. I wasn't doing that, and I was I was just like living a fast life. And I was still like going to church, and then I'd be like, I need to go to confession, and then like it was just like I wasn't doing the work to be better. I was just like asking God for forgiveness. So I was just like, hey, you know me, I messed up again, but that's what we do, right, God? Like, you forgive us, like you can forgive me again. And I was just looking at it, I was taking advantage of God's forgiveness, honestly. And I was just like, hey, we're good, you know what I mean? Like, I'm here in church, like I didn't forget about you. I just kind of like went out Saturday night because like, you know, I'm young. I was using the excuse of like being young, and God will always forgive me, and taking for granted the chances that he gives us.
Another editor's note, I am so, so sorry about the knuckle popping. It is a very nervous habit, and that topic that I was talking about makes me really nervous to bring up. So I am so sorry. It sounds atrocious, and the microphone picked it up so much, and I am so sorry. Please ignore. Okay, bye.
Um, Now that I think about that, I'm always like, I'm so lucky that God gave me another day, like another day to get right with Him and get forgiveness. And I truly believe that now I want to dedicate my life to like sharing His goodness, because He was so good to me in times when I was not being good to Him, and I was kind of like putting Him on the back burner, never forgetting about Him, but just putting Him on the back burner for the cool stuff that I wanted to do that was like more fun, the worldly things. And I'm not a child of the world, I'm a child of God. So so I kind of found myself, I got back into church, and I was volunteering with more things at church. So now I took on helping with the summer retreat for the youth, and I was like still trying to party, but then I was like, this feels phony. Like I'm telling the kids, I'm supposed to be giving a talk on telling the kids like to walk with God, and I went to the club the night before. Like one of the days I remember, I was at the club one night, and then the next day talking to the youth about something with faith, and I was just like, I feel not good. I don't. I feel like a phony. So I had to really do something about that, and I stopped the drinking, the excessive drinking, and the like going out, and it came time for the retreat. So now we're talking June 2023, a couple months ago. But came time for the retreat, and we had to, again, just like the retreats I did when I was younger, no phones, no contact with the outside world. And I had a baby. I had my salon. My salon was my baby. So to not be with my phone for that long, that was the biggest struggle. I didn't care about like, I didn't have anybody to like a boyfriend or anything to text. So it was just the salon. I was like, oh my gosh, what if something goes wrong with the salon? I felt like a mom detaching from my child. But I actually got special permission to leave the retreat one morning to go take 2 clients, because I had already had them booked. My clients book really far in advance, by the way. So I had already had these 2 clients booked before agreeing to do the retreat. So I got special permission to leave the 4 days. I went Saturday morning and took care of my salon, and it was fine, you know, like I tried to remain in a state of grace. So I played like worship music that day, and I told my clients like, yeah, like I'm actually in the middle of a retreat right now, and they were like, in the middle of a retreat? What are you talking about? But I was like, yeah, I've been with like 50 teenagers at the church, and I was actually like happy talking about it. So I go back to the retreat, and genuinely when I'm in this retreat where there's no phones and there's so many inconveniences, and you have to eat what they serve, and you have to sleep on the floor, and because we didn't get the cots this time. I got the cots when I was a teenager, but this time I'm an adult, I sleep on the floor. So I'm sleeping on the floor, and I'm eating whatever they had to serve us, which was super good also, but I didn't have the convenience of like going to Starbucks or whatever. So you'd think I wouldn't be happy, but I was so happy. And I was just like, as I'm there, I'm like, man, like I wish I could feel this all the time, like this intense like happiness of just serving God and helping bring these youth to God and to understand His message. And it was beautiful. Like I gave a talk, but also just like serving them by way of like cleaning the bathrooms or serving them food and like stuff like that, just making them comfortable and seeing them like feel their emotions. It was just beautiful, and I was so happy. And so I leave the retreat, because you can't stay there forever. So I leave the retreat, and thinking I'd be excited to get back to the world, I was like, ugh, I don't want to be here. Like listening to a Drake song just was very different after being away from all that kind of stuff for 4 days. I was just like, oh my gosh, like I don't like it here. But I was like, okay, you can't stay in the retreat forever. You gotta go on into the world, and you gotta like proclaim God's love, and my goal is always to like try to show people God's love through me. So through my service, through my actions. For me, I was like, how do I bring this into the salon? So there would be times when I was just like honestly questioning like my purpose and being like, okay, what is doing these lashes really doing for anybody? Like I should be helping the kingdom of God. Like, is this lash thing really helping, or is it selfishly like, of course I love doing lashes, it's kind of like art for me, but selfishly like am I sacrificing my true purpose, which is to bring people closer to God, just to do what I love to do, which is lashes. So I was starting to ask myself, like, okay, is this what God wants me to do, or is this what I want to do? And I was like, but it doesn't make sense, because God brought me to this salon. Like, this salon landed in my lap. I didn't even ask for it. Like, God made it work for me. So where is the God in this? And I was just looking for, like, reasons. I mean, nothing bad was going on, but I was just looking for, like, where is my purpose in this salon? Because I don't want to leave the salon. I love my salon. I just mentioned it's my baby. But, like, I want to make sure I'm doing it for the right reason. So that kind of brings me to, like, the last couple months. That's been my goal. And I've been celibate for a couple months, like, for since May. Or no, not since May, since March. Since March, and I've just been, like, away from all that stuff. And I've slowed it down on the going out a lot. I mean, I have, like, drank here and there, but nowhere near what I was doing before. But now it's always, like, I've understood, like, moderation. I haven't gotten, like, super drunk. I haven't gotten drunk, really. I've just had, like, drinks here and there, but I've, like, really taken it seriously now and not being like, okay, God, like, you cool, but I'm gonna go do some other cool stuff and I'll come back. That's what I was doing earlier this year. So that's what brought me to this podcast. I was, again, just looking for, like, where can I connect faith and my job into one. And I feel like other people who have a similar faith, like Christian or Catholic like me, but also love what they do in the beauty industry, I feel like they might have been feeling the same way I was, which is like, how can I help people? How can I help my clients? And how can I serve them and bring God glory through what I do? Personally, that's lashes for me. But yeah, so I created this little platform. If you ever feel like alone in your walk, and maybe you don't have a young adult group or any type of group that you can talk to about it, here you are. You found my podcast, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope something that I talked about resonated with you. Yeah, it was easier than I thought, actually. Maybe I'll film from my bed more often, because this helped a lot. I really was not looking forward to this video, but, you know, I'm human. Congratulations, you found out. And I just want to thank God for giving me the strength to deliver that message. Also, God loves you so much. He's so happy you're here, and he gave you life today because he wants you to use it. So go forth and give God glory. New videos every other Tuesday. Thank you so much for watching. I have the virtual prayer box. You can find the link for that below. And then I also made a Christian song playlist that I'm adding to try to get all my songs on there, because when I play the Christian songs at work, people always ask what I'm playing. So, and I have it on Spotify, but not everyone has Spotify. So I'm adding to the Christian playlist on here. And then I also am going to start a playlist of very powerful testimonies that I like to listen to, just because I think it helps to hear other people's walks. So you can find the testimony playlist, Christian playlist, and digital prayer box down below. And yeah, thanks for being here. Have a good rest of your day. Bye!